Hello, friends. Welcome to the second State of the Stake, your weekly update and soon to be bi-weekly update of everything you need to know to stay on top of Stake Wars. Today, we've got a full panel. Guys, do you want to do a quick round of introductions? We'll just go from left to right as I can see you on my screen. Blaze, Ozzy, and then Jared and Joe.
All right. Hey, I'm Blaze. I run the Open Shard Alliance, which is a guild that's focused on supporting validators and onboarding them auctioneers or help manage stake.
Very humble, sir. I'd say you're like the Stake Wars Darth Vader, but like the good guy.
Nice.
Ozzy?
Hey y'all, Ozzy here, founder of Ant Guild, co-founder of Move, and co-founder of Open Forest, and just keen to stay in touch with what's going on, especially to help the community understand the implications of some of these upgrades and how the near network is maturing. So, good to see everybody.
Hi, I'm Jared. I'm one half of Ready Layer 1. It's a podcast and some tech and other stuff. And in this current form, I'm supporting Joe, who's doing Staking Wars with us, as I will support anything that gets us more decentralized.
And I'm Joe. I'm the other half of Ready Layer 1. I manage the technical side of everything that we do, as well as co-host the podcast.
Brilliant. I love the 2.5 men vibe. I don't know where the other half is going to come from, but it's good. It's good branding. If you're new, you may want to check out the first State of the Stake episode last week. Although I thought a few things have changed. So really quick recap. Stake Wars is a validators competition. It's way more exciting than it sounds. And it is a competition aimed at recruiting, training, and funding new validators ahead of a major network upgrade on the Near protocol. Stake Wars is split across 2 stages, and we're currently about to end the second week of the first stage. I really enjoyed the format last week where we first asked people from the outside, sort of like what they've heard from what they've seen. And then we ask people participating, and then Blaze can help me deconstruct as one of the organizers what we've been doing in the back end. So maybe Ozzy and Jared, I don't know, have you guys heard much about Stake Wars in this past week? How are we doing in terms of like marketing, communication? How would you rate the community side? And maybe what would you like to know?
I think from my side, I know a couple people who have been previously on the sideline and are keen to finally be able to get involved. I think that's a really good promise of becoming a chunk producer. I think in general, it would still be pretty helpful from an ecosystem level to just understand the why does this matter kind of piece of the puzzle for Stake Wars. I think a lot of times, like all the different roles that inhabit an ecosystem don't necessarily talk to each other. And so when you have a bunch of people talking about a network level infrastructure upgrade, that can sometimes have trouble translating to the traders or the dApp builders or other things like that. So clarifying that probably would be a good starting point.
I think some of the challenges that we faced this week will very soon make it very clear why this matters. But I'll let Jared jump in first.
You said it that's exactly it, like clarifying why this matters. But I did listen to your podcast, AVB, and talking about it, which was really helpful too. I heard the forks. You two talk, and I was like walking through Central Park. Wow, I'm listening to a validator podcast for an hour and a half. It was awesome. But I heard there were forks. That's all. I don't use that as far as I'm going to say.
It's the unofficial name.
Yeah, I'm not, I don't know. But I think understanding why it's being done is really important. And also, or like why it's being done from a technical level, but also I really like the idea of like why not just have a bunch of people who can afford it, do it, and reach out to the community. I think that's another really cool side of this.
Nice. I've got a bunch of clips from last week's episode because the philosophical rants were amazing. We're going to dominate the YouTube shorts with those clips.
Totally.
Yeah, I'd say the first 2 weeks have really been interesting. I've done a lot of different work in both Web 2 and lately now in Web 3 building stuff, but never this type of stuff. And being able to work on setting up a validator, understanding why it and how it works has been really interesting. It's allowed me to deep dive into really the mechanisms and how the network is actually running. And being able to see it from the standpoint of one of these validators in this competition, especially with the lately, it's been like forks constantly, and seeing why those are being caused and what is upsetting the network and causing these different issues, and being part of that whole process. But then also too, the experience of having to quickly adapt to these situations, but in a low stakes environment. So validator does go offline right now. It's part of the competition, but it's not truly affecting the network. And so being able to get that sense of, oh, okay, like this is a fork. I have to quickly adapt my server. How fast can I do it? How fast can I be ready to handle something like this? And that's been a good test, because I know if we get to mainnet, that's going to be the most important thing of, can I keep my validator online as close to 100% as possible?
And for context, Joe is running a validator, so it's really good to have the participant's perspective. I'm just wondering, are you still having your day job? Like, how would you describe the amount of hours involved? Because you're one of those odd characters that you seem to respond at any time of the day. And I'm in Australia, so it does make me wonder what's going on.
Yeah, I probably don't sleep enough, but you
look great.
Yeah, I mean, thanks. No, for me, the biggest thing is that I've been in this space for enough years where I have the right tools at my disposal. I have it set where like I could even be on my phone and have to be able to access my servers if I need to update something. During one of the forks, for example, I was actually walking my dog and logging in securely into my server, making the updates, and still got everything done. And so if you know those type of things and this isn't new to you, like you could still make everything work.
That is fascinating. I did not know that was possible. I'm definitely in that category of people that have a very powerful code that is grossly underutilized. I'm using the same apps from 2012. But it does make me wonder how active you've been, just before we jump up the place, how active you've been engaging with the other validators communities, and as we face these challenges, whether you've had the opportunity to learn some of the challenges that others have had or jump in.
Since day one, especially that first week, I was very active in the Discord and just trying to help where I could, or also learn like where I could too. I do have a decent amount of server experience, and so just some of those like basic things of people were having all different kinds of trouble. It was simply like setting up credentials or downloading something from GitHub. And so being able to help and jump in where I can. And also too, knowing where questions had been answered, I've been trying to help with that stuff. And that's been like a really, I think, important piece, because everyone who's been in the Discord, I was just about everybody, really been very helpful and really respectful. There is a good sense of collaboration and community. While it is a competition, I don't see people being like, oh, I can't help you because this is a competition. So that's really been a nice piece of all of this.
Nice. I may have time to spoil it, but Blaze, I think we're ready to unveil.
And so this is the validator uptime scoreboard. We have a new challenge coming out around uptime. One of the things that you'll need to focus on as a validator is making sure on mainnet you stay above 90% online. And we're going to have a new challenge today starting around Shardnet on 70% online. Then once you move testnet, one course at 95% there. So yeah, so that validator scoreboard's out there.
While you pull it up, maybe I can provide some context. As a non-technical person, I love having the organizers meetings because I try to grasp at the edges of what's happening. And we had a situation on Monday. It seems like validators, as in the human running the validators, I don't know, took the weekend off and too many nodes went offline. The network became unstable. If you have that many nodes being async or offline, it's basically an attack point on the network. So it's been getting a lot better throughout this week, but we have been working pretty hard, and we will be releasing a challenge soon to actually encourage validators logging to the debug console and to definitely keep the validators online for the remainder of the competition. Details on the challenge will be published very soon, but there will be undelegated near points, so basically cash rewards attached to the validator. We're trying to mitigate people turning the validator off, perhaps due to the costs involved. Attached or in parallel with the challenge, we have these very sexy looking leaderboard. So I'll hand back over to Blaze to explain us how to read the leaderboard And that way we can be prepared when the challenge drops in a few hours.
Yeah, this stage of Stake Wars is really focused on chunk producers. Today in mainnet, validators produce both blocks and chunks. But as part of expanding the protocol, we're now taking those two and splitting them so that we can decentralize the network even more and break up some of that processing to help for future scalability. So in this competition, we're focused on the chunks. So you can see here, we have chunks produced, chunks expected, the percentage online. We've also listed the blocks here and percentage online. Now this happens to be, it looks like a new validator because you can see that they've missed 0 epochs, validated 1, and their total is 1. But as we scroll through the list, and this is sorted by the percentage online, you can see the different validators that may have been around for a while and how they're stacking up. So this validator's been online 4 epochs. They've met all 4 of them. They've basically have a 98% uptime here. And so really what you want to do is find your validator in here and just keep track. Obviously, in addition to this, you want all your monitoring tools so that you know if you're having challenges on your validator to manage to this score here. There is a little bit of a factor in here. So the factor is not just the number of chunks produced, but it's also how many epochs you've been validating versus your total number of epochs. So that's a factor as to your score. And so that's in there as well. So this is really just a scoreboard. The challenge will be about maintaining your uptime above 70%. So if we scroll down here, let's see where we're at. So we've got at this point, basically 94 validators that are in the metric. So that means that there's a lot of validators that need to pull themselves up. Maybe that's it. We're having challenges early on, but they'll want to make sure they continue to keep their uptime because it's going to be harder and harder to move this score as epochs pass and the competition goes on.
Just to confirm, Blaze, I know that we talked about this on Monday. How are we deterring people from just spinning up a new validator and having 100% going forward? Like, we're factoring that into account. So people would be better off keeping the same validator, but bringing it online going forward. Is that correct?
We really don't have a factor for that, but we do have an additional challenge coming out to verify validators. And that's the one that's still under development, but it's using the auth out there that's on near already, the smart contract for validators to validate themselves based on some social proof and their accounts based on Shardnet and testnet as we move forward. So we'll have a little bit better way to do that, but we don't actively have that built into the school.
Next, Ozzy, Sebastian, Jesus, do you have any questions so far?
No, I think Blade's been pretty clear, and we mentioned it before. It's good to get the update, I think, overall, of just how things are going. So I think everything's pretty clear on our side.
Awesome. The leaderboards, I think, makes it feel more real. The focus has definitely shifted towards, I guess we're in a constant state of patching all the technicals, and we want to make sure that the network is stable before moving on to testnet. But we've also started shifting the focus towards a participant experience. We do acknowledge that when the competition started, things were a bit more ephemeral. So I feel like having the leaderboard where you can actually see all the participants and you can track progress. And I don't know, there's something in the human mind that we'd not like to see numbers ticking up, and it triggers a bit the sense of competition. I feel like this is going to be a really good improvement. And if you have any questions about how to read the leaderboard correctly, the Discord channel would be the best place to go. So as we are trailing towards issuing roughly 2 challenges per week for the remaining 8 weeks, there's been a couple of extra challenges released this week. Staying true to the original vibe, we continue to name the challenges in very generic 00 number format. And I believe the latest challenges are from Metapool and Linear. Joe, have you had a chance to look into them? How would you describe them?
All the challenges so far, I haven't completed all of them. Looking through all the different ones, what I like, or I guess should say it stuck out to me, was that it's a diverse set of skills here, and it's leveraging a couple different things. People who are maybe stronger in different areas, or even like weaker in different areas, but give them an opportunity to dig a little bit deeper into what are some of the important things about running a validator. Like the challenge about data science for staking. There's not a lot of people probably who are very comfortable with all of that, but to have to go through that process, and even if they can't complete the actual challenge, I think that's one of the optional ones, it's still just being able to have that experience. It's like another way to learn. And one of the ones I really liked was it was a simple one of just how to set it up on a cloud provider. And it's one of those things to me, if you can explain it to somebody else, like that shows that you are competent, right? If you can give proper directions, then it shows that you know what you're talking about. I've really appreciated what's been put out there so far.
It's great to hear. Yes. So the last two challenges, we've got data science for staking. This one is an optional challenges, and there's been a lot of feedback from the community that it may be a little bit more hands-on for a different nature of work. This is being acknowledged as well. We've made it optional. We've also made it very generous in terms of the delegation. So the teams that do want to dedicate the time and the resources to it should be well rewarded. The other challenge, which I really wanted to mention, is split revenue for staking rewards. This one has a bit of a cool story. This one is actually encouraging users to use the GitHub repository from Zavadil that was originally created, or that he is actually using right now, to dedicate the staking rewards from his node to charity in Ukraine. So we thought that this was a really interesting use case, and we're encouraging validators to get really creative on different ways to split the rewards from the nodes as a potential way to differentiate. I thought it was cool to mention.
Yeah, and I think going back to what I was saying before, like these are the type of challenges too, where it is a good experience to both challenge you of maybe thinking creatively, but also too of like understanding again the mechanisms that are actually working within the validator. Understanding like the smart contract piece of how rewards are handled, how they can then be distributed. And so even if you are not necessarily a smart contract developer, to be able to go through that challenge and see the different like steps that go in there and how rewards can then be split. What is the flexibility? Again, because this is all obviously programmatic, it's a great practice and learning experience for people to have that exposure.
I agree. As I think through some of the upcoming challenges for the next weeks, some of the patterns and trends that you're going to see is cross-pollination on the ecosystem. So as Blaze mentioned, we're going to be using the near auth repo, which was over a year old and I haven't seen many people use, but it's actually a really exciting tool. And I think there's a lot of value in exposing all this new wave of validators and giving it visibility to the competition. This code to split the revenue from nodes would be another one. And you may see some more of those come up our way. If you have any ideas on how to give visibility or use to other protocols, definitely let us know. I'm sharing my screen on the Shardnet block explorer. If you remember the numbers from last week, there's actually been a sharp increase of both the total number of nodes validating and the total number of nodes online. So it's pretty exciting to see that people are still joining the competition and in general that more nodes are going online. So hopefully with the new leaderboard and the new challenge to reward people for staying online, we will see even more improvements. And I don't know if this means that the network is unstable at the moment or what's going on. Blaze?
Yeah, it will be good to see that number of nodes online shift to nodes validating. So that'll be good. And that's part of the reason we're putting up the challenge is when you have so many nodes online that are supposed to be producing chunks and they're not, it does create an issue of stability for the network. So that is why we've had to fork Shardnet a couple different times. And it was mainly due to some people gaming the botnet and accumulating a lot of stake and then being offline. That's why we're bringing this challenge out to really get people focused on, okay, it's not just spinning up the validator, but it's actually about producing chunks and making sure that everything is working correctly. Along with that challenge, we'll put in a troubleshooting guide so that if people are having issues, they can defer to that and try to get themselves ironed out, really helping support the network. Obviously, that instability isn't something that can happen on mainnet because we've got qualified in general and validators out there have been there for a while, but it's something specific to Shardnet and its temperamental nature right now.
That's actually really good to mention as well. Yeah, it's one of the challenges that I see of testing the protocol upgrade on a branch new testnet, because it's actually hard to replicate real world conditions. Like on the last organizers meeting, I was actually asking like, how do we deal with like zombie pools? Like what happened if we have 900 pools, but 500 people gave up 2 weeks into the competition and now the network is unstable? It's a setup that wouldn't really occur on mainnet, but it just made me think of, do pools need to be officially deregistered? Are there mechanisms there to like self-cleanse the network? So the hard forks are the quick and easy fix on Shardnet, but it's all gearing up towards the next testnet. We're going to start having a much more, I guess, natural environment. How would you describe it, Blaze?
I think here's a key point that people ought to keep in mind that are really joint stakeholders trying to become a validator on mainnet. Uptime is critical. On mainnet, it's above 95%. So if you've fallen below that threshold of 95%, you're going to be kicked. What does being kicked mean? It means that you're ejected from the network and it takes you 2 to 3 epochs to get back in. So it's not like the next epoch, the next 12 to 14 hours, you come right back and you're validating again. So the penalty there is you're losing staking rewards from the validator, not to mention that doesn't make your delegators very happy. So you could lose delegators as well, which for new validators on the network is critical because losing one delegator can put you below the threshold of having enough stake to maintain and stay online. And so you get kicked for not enough stake. So it is an important facet that we want to focus on.
And there's actually a really interesting element there that I don't think we've actually discussed or considered much around. Most new validators will be receiving at least their seed price through liquid staking. And liquid staking providers only delegate to people that have the uptime and the performance. So potentially, if you get kicked out 3 months in, you'll just lose your delegation and you get kicked out. This is probably the scope for discussion and work directly with the liquid staking providers, but definitely something to take into account. It's an active commitment to keeping the network secure and stable. So I'm just sharing the troubleshooting guide and I'll be including the link on the show notes. We've been working hard, both Alan and David and some of the Eng. They've been working hard on documenting some of the common errors that keep coming up on the Discord. And this is up on GitHub, so anyone is able to open issues or contribute to this. There aren't any specific rewards for this at the moment, but I have a feeling that the fates will be nice to people that add to the commons knowledge and help us build that repository. So if you do have any issues that you come across, or if you're on the Discords and you think's coming up consistently, feel free to contribute towards that GitHub, and may the stake be with you.
For sure.
Legends, I think that is about all the updates on the stats, challenges, and war stories. Do you guys have any comments, parting thoughts as we wrap it up?
I just have one question. Is there, so from I get why someone who wants to validate would do this, but on the other end, near whoever's creating the staking wars, is there a team there watching all this? Because you've got people gaming, you got DGen, you got people like testing all the weak spots or testing all the stuff. Is that kind of the reason to do stake wars, to on the other side, basically have an amazing beta test happen of the smartest people who will then eventually be ideally the validators?
That idea is a race to the top, right? There's only 200 seats, and obviously you can see online we have over 300 now. So Near is looking for, from a decentralized perspective, and all of the partners that are participating in stake wars, it's more partner driven this time around than pagoda driven, although they're there on the protocol side. So we're trying to help sort out and find who the next rock stars in Near are going to be. And those could be developers, those could be validators. So, the second stake wars brought a lot of the people out that we see today, including myself. And so I think that this stake wars will have the same effect.
It's like a talent recruitment too. That's cool.
Absolutely.
Ozzy, I know that you've been around for a long time and you've got some pretty good stories on how you got involved and how things have shifted. Especially, I know that you've been on the trenches, say, with us, with me certainly, And there's been some pretty heavy changes in the makeup of the ecosystem of the community. I don't know if you have any particular views on how to make sure that we get those decentralization pillars to avoid having any potential conflicts of interest or conflicts between any groups that may have too much power on the network going forward. Because I feel like that would really go to your original point of why does this matter and why would somebody want to get involved?
The way that I look at it is we're still in the really early days of this network, right? It's still a small town, so to speak. Sometimes when I explain near, I say it's a small town with really good geography. Like it has the potential to become something much larger, but for now, it's a lot of the same people that you see across the board. I think to some extent that kind of like in working, like in participation is inevitable, but what really hopefully will drive the healthy growth of the ecosystem into the future will be a good kind of culture around the ecosystem. And that's actually something that's not directly related to your network development maintenance and the groups of people who are actually doing the infrastructure. It's all about how are you bringing new people in from the outside that want to add to this town and turn it into a small city and bring different perspectives and bring different beliefs and challenge the status quo or the people who have been in for a while with new thoughts and new ways of looking at things. So if we want a healthy ecosystem in 3 to 4 years, we need to have a healthy culture now, and we need to be exporting that culture, soft power style, almost geopolitically across the crypto space to attract other people who will relate to the type of ecosystem we want to eventually build. So that's my take on it. And honestly, there have been a lot of changes. It's not really my place to say what I think about them anymore. It's outgrown the small town that it was before, and I think we're in the wait and see facet of it, where people have plans are in motion, and we're really not going to know the full results until probably 1 to 2 years from now, and we'll see how things turn out then. So, but thanks for having me on today, and I really enjoyed the podcast and meeting you guys as well, Jared, Joe. So,
excellently put.
That was really well put. I'm going to totally bite that with the small town and the geography part.
Yes. We basically have a betting agency to see who tweeted first, me or Jared.
I would never, but that was a really good way to put it.
I agree. I think people don't realize it, but as someone that's been around for enough time, it's almost like a tree. When you chop a tree, you can see all the rings. And it is important that we don't have the tier 1 community members that were able to buy near super cheap and set up a validator. And then the tier 7 plebs that whatever may get to use a transaction free on Aurora Plus. Like it's really important to keep the network growing in a healthy rate, opportunities available to as many people as possible. And Stakeverse is definitely a large equalizer, even people coming in from other ecosystems. We've got teams coming from other protocols wanting to expand to near. And this is a fantastic opportunity for them to bring in their expertise and set themselves up for the future. So get involved. Blaze, would it be too late for anyone that wants to join at this stage, going into 3rd week, stage 1?
No, I think it's a perfect time to join. So if you're on the fence about whether to join Stake Wars, it's a great time to jump in and get everything set up before we make that migration to testnet.
Aussie, recruit the army. Joe will help them up. Let's get a node going.
yeah, sounds good. I think we're definitely going to approach a second win for the ecosystem these coming months as the starting roadmap gets implemented, as some of the games and more advanced dApps deploy. And I think as crypto settles into a comfortable state in a kind of pseudo bear market, very positive months ahead. And I'm looking forward to the conclusion of Stake Wars and also the next levels of growth on the network.
Joe, as a participant, how do you feel about the week ahead?
Excited. Hopefully no more forks, but no, it's been good. It's been a good challenge, and I'm looking forward to keep moving.
Okay, thanks so much, guys. That is a wrap. Thanks for tuning into State of the Stake episode 2. We may be moving into a bi-weekly session next week, depending on how much activity there is, but we will certainly be having at least one. So make sure that you tune in to stay up to date with everything happening on the Shardnet as we keep cranking out the blocks. Take care, and I'll see you soon.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, baby.